If you're thinking of retiring soon and you have a 401k plan, I want to share with you some of the cost mistakes others have made, and I want to make sure that you avoid them. I'm going to share with you a story of a couple who was in this situation. They came to me for a review, and I want to give you some of the conversation I had with them so that you can make sure you're doing the right thing. But before you do that, subscribe to my channel. I have over 30 years of experience in the retirement planning space. I want to make sure you do things right, whether it's Social Security or retirement income or reducing your taxes. Click on the notification bell so you're alerted to when we post new videos. Now, I believe you've worked hard for it, this retirement, and you deserve to enjoy it. However, if you make mistakes just before or after retirement, you haven't prepared properly, it may not be the outcome that you're looking for. And I think our industry has done a lousy job of helping you to avoid some of those common mistakes. And that's why I want you to stick with this video and make sure you don't go down that road that so many others have. So let me set the stage for you here. This is a couple who were about 60 years old. They had $1 million in the 401k plan, and they were looking for a second opinion. We give this often. So they wanted a review of what was going on, and if we were to take them on as a client, how would we think about guiding them? So just think about that in relationship to what you have and just take a listen. Now, it's important to understand that as you start to really get close to retirement, you've got to start thinking about investing differently. This is one of those things we don't tell you about in our industry. While you were working or during your accumulation years, you wanted to build the biggest nest egg properly so you could get the cash flow that you need. It's okay to take on more risk than you supposedly should have or needed because you have plenty of time on your side. You can overcome some of those mistakes. But as you go towards the distribution stage of planning, retirement, this is where we live. This is what we talk about to our clients. It's much more now about putting together a portfolio, not necessarily to grow the assets, but to generate the income that you need and to preserve the principal for as long as you possibly can. It's a shift in the way you think about it, and you should be taking a look at that within a couple, 3, 4 years of your retirement, which is what these folks were doing. So in essence, the question they were asking is, are we taking the correct amount of risk for the portfolio? And that's where we talk to them about the personalized investment benchmark that we've helped to create for our clients. And again, it gets back to the accumulation stage versus the distribution stage. In the accumulation stage, the benchmark that you're trying to hit for many and for their advisors, they take a look at the traditional benchmarks and they see whether or not their portfolio has succeeded as to whether or not they've outdone or outperformed the Dow or the S&P or the EFA. It's now different when you go into retirement. What you need to do is ascertain how much of a nest egg you need based on how much income you're going to be taking out. If you've hit that nest egg, if you've hit your retirement number, then you need to be now shifting the way you think about it to think about what is my personalized investment benchmark. Given my nest egg, do I need 3%, 5%, 7%, whatever your number is in order to generate the income that you need and protect and preserve your principal looking forward? That's the goal, right? So the personalized investment benchmark is what you're looking for. And that's why as you approach retirement, oftentimes you take a look at reallocating that 401k. So the real question is, are you prepared? In our latest book, Don't Outlive Your Money in Retirement, 7 Key Steps, I developed a quiz. Okay, if you go to our banner, what you'll see is click on the quiz. Invest 2 minutes in yourself. It's like 15 questions. Once you finish the questions, I'll score for you which of the 3 stages of preparedness you are in. I'll also get you a free chapter of the book and a couple of worksheets to give you some clarity with regards to exactly what you need to do to pursue your retirement goals. Check out that banner. So I'm going to share with you the 5 items that I shared with this couple, and maybe you can learn a little bit from it. The first item is, when we took a look at their portfolio within the 401k, they had over 90% of their portfolio in the S&P 500. The good news was, over the past 10, 12 years, they've done spectacularly. But to think that that is going to continue, to count on that to continue, is a mistake. Quick story for you. Many years ago, I was working with a client who was working with a company called Wang. For those of you of this age, you'll probably remember, right? They were doing very well many years ago, and then they weren't. Now, I had a client who was within 6 or 9 months of retirement, had probably 90% of his portfolio in the Wang corporate stock, had done very well, and I had recommended to him to unbundle that a bit within the 401k so he didn't have as much risk in the event that something didn't happen, or something happened that he wasn't prepared for. Of course, you know the end of the story, right? Wang went down, his portfolio tanked, and he no longer had the nest egg or the income that he needed because he didn't follow the recommendation. Take that risk down as you're approaching that nest egg number you need, your retirement number that you need, and do the reallocation necessary. Having 90% in equities or 70 or 80%, that's a lot of money. Beware. The second thing we talked about was, and I just mentioned it, have they hit their retirement number? And this is what retirement planning is all about. Understanding what income you need and what is your magic number, right? A lot of people think $1 million. Well, that's not the case. It could be anything. We just did another video where we said that if you needed $100,000 in income in retirement, then you needed like $1.9 million. Check out that video and you'll see what I'm talking about. So depending upon what your circumstances, you need to understand what your retirement number is, and that will be based off of how much income that you need. For these folks, they were pretty close to that number. The third item we talked about was the personalized investment benchmark. Again, they've been doing very well, but let's use history as a place to learn some lessons, okay? Back in the late 90s, it seemed to be a new economy. The more companies lost money, the better their stocks were valued. That was the beginning of the internet bubble. But then 2000, 2001, 2002 hit. 3 successive years where the tech bubble burst. And if you had not changed those allocations and had retired about that time, you were in for a big surprise. Go to 2007, 2008. You never know when these situations are going to occur for those people who retired about that time. They got hammered. One of the things our industry does not tell you about, okay? When you go to retire, and if you need or have to take income from the portfolio at a time the portfolio goes south, it's a double whammy, and it becomes more difficult to overcome that scenario, the market going down and you need income. It's the most vulnerable time you have in retirement, those first 2-3 years. Prepare yourself for this. Make the allocations that you need to reflect your retirement number and your personalized investment benchmark. Fourth item is, and we sent them home with this homework, they needed to then go to the retirement plan provider. We talked to them about conceptually what they needed in terms of adjustments to the portfolio based on their circumstances. They then needed to go into the 401k plan, talk to the retirement plan provider, make adjustments to the existing money so that it's allocated properly, and make adjustments to the money that's being contributed to the plan now and in the future. And finally, one of the more difficult conversations that we have with our clients, we call it FOMO. You've heard it, fear of missing out. Well, here's the deal. Again, this couple has experienced tremendous growth over the past 10 or 12 years. They don't want to miss out. But here's again where we need to change the way that we're thinking about this. We need to recalibrate our brain and our expectations. It's no longer about just growing the money, okay? It's now about protecting and preserving that nest egg so that we can have maybe some moderate growth looking forward and also generate the income that you need. But you need to invest differently, and you need to say to yourself, it's okay if the market goes up by 15%, but my personalized investment benchmark say was 7 and I hit it this year, then it's okay that if I only did 7 or 8 and the market did 15. Because that thinking was old school thinking. That thinking wasn't during your working years and the accumulation stage. We need to think a little bit differently now that you're in retirement. And to help you to understand how to avoid some of the costly 401 mistakes, take a look at our video.